weekend, and everybody came, 400,000 of them. They stayed for the weekend, even over into Monday. But the party never came off. For the first time in 71 years, the scheduled race day was totally canceled. Not an engine turned over at Indy. Still, most of the faithful remained. But Monday was worse than Sunday, as this scene indicates. So we all stood around in the rain some more until the Speedway announced that it was off again. Come on back on Saturday, they said, and we'll try again. So, here we are. For the first time ever, ABC Sports has been prepared to cover the 500 on live network television since last weekend, weather permitting, and as of now, it appears that weather will at last permit. How many have returned? Well, it has to be a guess. There's no official attendance figures here, but perhaps 250,000 should be a pretty good estimate. There are individual seats for more than that number, and as you can see, most of them seem to be occupied. And then there's the infield. It's been suitable only for mud wrestling most of the week, but the cleanup crews have done heroic work, and the area is passable today. Infield people are a hardy crowd anyway, and it takes more than a little mud to scare them off. Some of them actually like mud, as we saw last week. But mud or no mud, this is still the world's most famous automobile race, and the pre-race excitement today is no less than it was last Sunday. They've already seen marching bands and pretty girls this morning, and yet to come is back home again in Indiana, and the age-old cry, gentlemen, start your engines. But it's a story that began 3 weeks ago today with the battle for the pole on the first day of qualifying. The endless quest of Mario Andretti at age 46 got things rolling on the first qualifying day. The Italian-born former World Grand Prix champion, winner at Indy just once 17 years ago, set the pace and briefly sat on the pole with this run. Then came Danny Sullivan, the handsome, rakish defending champion. The Flying Bachelor posted a speed of 215.382 miles per hour, an all-time speed record for Indy, and people wondered again, how fast can they go? As they've wondered since Ray Haroon won the first 500 at about 70 miles an hour. But Danny couldn't relax. Yet to come was his teammate, Rick Mayers.
I think he's still going to be the man to do it for 4 laps, and if I got to get beat by somebody, I couldn't have a better guy to do it, but I'd like to stay on the pole.
Sure enough, Mears snatched the pole position from Sullivan with yet another record, 216.828 miles per hour. Mears already has 2 wins here, in 1979 and 1984, but now he's on the comeback trail after an accident a year and a half ago that almost ended his career and has left him still with pain, considerable pain in his feet and legs. Rick Mears on the pole. But right now, live, Rick Mears still back in the garage area, standing with his rival and teammate, the defending champion, Danny Sullivan. Mears going after his 3rd Indy win. Rounding out the first row will be a young Charger, son of a former champion, Michael Andretti. There are 2 fathers and sons in this race today, the Al Unsers and Mario and Michael Andretti. This was Michael on the first qualifying day as he bumped his dad from the front row and took his position alongside Mears and Sullivan. It was a symbol of the changing of the guard at the Speedway. One way or another, the spotlight always finds H.A. Foyt at Indy. He was about to go out when inspection showed his car's measurements were 25 one-thousandths of an inch in excess of the regulation, so he had to qualify the next day. His speed was 5th fastest, but as a second-day qualifier, he'll start well back in the field. This month has not been without incident at Indianapolis. Early in the month, this was Herm Johnson hitting the wall in the first turn during practice. His injuries were serious to his feet and to his back. He's still in the hospital, in a brace, but will recover and hopes to drive again. By the way, it's the 2nd year in a row that Herm has crashed at Indy. The bad luck that his dog Mario Andretti here, since his only win in 1969, continued in the wake after he qualified for the 2nd row. This crash caused Mario only minor physical injuries, but his spirit was crushed again along with his car. It was sent back to England, but repairs couldn't be completed, so he'll start near the back of the field in a backup car. During final carburation tests, Dennis Firestone came spinning wildly out of the 4th turn, taking Roberto Moreno with him. Both cars slid down the pits out of control, damaging the cars of George Snyder and Jose Lagarza. Again, tragedy was avoided, no serious injuries, but the incident caused some changes at the back of the starting grid. The next day, Dennis Firestone's battered car was withdrawn. That opened up a slot for 52-year-old Dick Simon, the oldest man ever to start in this race. So the stage is set for a race that has made a new kind of Indy history even before the green flag falls. And they've been racing here since 1911. ABC Sports presents From the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Indianapolis, Indiana, the 1986 running of the Indianapolis 500. Well, here we are again. I'm Jim McKay reporting live back home again and again and again in Indiana. The weather is finally here for us. It's 75 degrees now. They say it will reach the mid-80s with heavy humidity. 20% chance of rain, but even if it comes, it should come in the late afternoon or in the evening. So it looks like we're okay for a race today. In addition to the usual question of who's going to win the race, there are a number of other questions to be addressed here, and we will address them in a couple of minutes. One, for example, is what about the drivers? What about this long delay? How does it affect them psychologically? They are, after all, human beings. What about the cars? Race cars are meant to be run, not sit still. They've been sitting still for more than a week now, except for a very brief and slow practice session that was allowed yesterday. Still, however, this is the fastest field in the history of Indianapolis, and a fascinating one as far as the dramatis personae are concerned. For example, we have, as we said, two fathers and sons here, the Unsers and the Andrettis. We have brothers in the field, the Bettenhausens. We have half-brothers, Johnny Parsons and Pancho Carter. We have more foreign drivers than we have ever had in a long time. There are 9 of them, 10 actually, if you count Mario Andretti, who, of course, was born in Italy. We said we have the oldest driver, Dick Simon, at age 52. Remember, though, that Mario Andretti will be starting near the back of the field because he crashed his regular car in practice and is driving a backup car. We would expect him to be charging from the start and also charging from the rear. Will be the only man ever to have won this race 4 times at age 51. Back again, A.J. Foyt. Well, right now, Jack Arute is down with the pole sitter, Rick Mears.
And, Jim, the pole sitter, Rick Mears, you may hold the distinction of having held the pole at Indianapolis longer than anyone, 21 days. Are you ready for the race today, Rick?
Well, I hope so. You know, it's. I think the layoff didn't really hurt anything. It just gives us a chance to regroup and get ready for this Saturday and let all the people come back out and everything. So I think everything's going to work out well.
But what about the mental part of it? Is there any tricks in the mind? Are you concerned at all? You didn't even take the car out for that warm-up session yesterday.
No, not really. You know, by going the day-to-day like we were early in the week, that's tough because you never know when you get up one morning to the next what it's going to be. So when they actually called it and decided to go today on Saturday, it was really a break then. Mentally, you could just kind of regroup, relax a little bit, turn everything off, and then get started again Friday.
Well, 3 days is too short of a time to go back to Bakersfield, your hometown. So what did you do during that period?
Oh, we just kind of laid low around here, really. We did a little testing at Milwaukee and went out and hit a few golf balls here and just kind of relaxed a little bit.
Showtime, though, now. And, Jim, he's ready. He'll start on the inside of that front row.
Okay, thanks very much, Jack. And also recharged and ready to rev up again is our commentary team, who'll be doing not the play-by-play, but the lap, I guess you would call it, commentary. My ABC colleague Jim Lampley and Sam Posey. Here we go.
Kind of startling to be here on a dry day, isn't it, Jim? A day on which the lyrics back home in Indiana have a new significance for all of us. Sam, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to address the 2 specific questions Jim has raised about the effect of the delay on the cars and the drivers. But apropos of that conversation with Mears, I think your assessment of his talent, mentioned during the rain last week, bears repeating.
Well, I had said that I thought it was significant that when Rick's first victory came here at the track, it was at the expense of A.J. Foyt, who finished second. My prediction is that Rick Mears will rewrite the Indy record books. And when he finally winds down his career here, which may be a long time away, because remember, he's only 34 now, that all of A.J. Foyt's records will be Rick Mears's.
Well, now, in order to take a step toward that today, he'll have to overcome whatever the effects are of that delay. What are the effects on car first, then drivers?
I really don't think, I know Jim mentioned it, but I don't think there's any effect at all on the cars. It's a little hotter today. It would have been better for them. They would have run better on cool conditions. And curiously, the drivers, I think, are relatively unaffected. Surprisingly, they're a lot like actors. They're used to waiting. Waiting's part of their metabolism. I think, and Rick mentioned this just now, that when the decision was made by the Speedway to reschedule the race for today and not try to hold it during the week, that almost every driver here was delighted with that decision. It allowed the tension to be defused and then refocused everyone on the same wavelength, pointing to this moment right now. The only thing that surprised me, frankly, was how late that tension started to build. As recently as yesterday afternoon, Tom Sneaver was hitting a few golf balls. The Andrettis were lounging around the pool. Mears was doing the golfing. He said he'd also been out with this unusual varmint pistol that he has, shooting small animals. Just now, the tension has really come back.
I think it's worth noting that during the brief practice session Jim McKay mentioned yesterday, 30 minutes at only 120 miles per hour. 9 of the 33 drivers, Rick Mears among them, Jim, elected not to even take their cars on the track.
Absolutely. Well, not too many people elected not to come back, except, when you figured that they came from all over the nation last weekend, many of them had to go back to their jobs, and yet somehow or other, these stands are filling up, and it's still almost an hour until race time. So the cars are ready, the drivers are ready, and so are the fans. So are you, I hope. Stand by.
This live ABC sports presentation of the 70th Indianapolis 500 is being brought to you